This video is to get further practice using trigonometric formulas. The trigonometric formulas we have in mind are the formulas that you should have on your reference sheet. This is the same reference sheet that is given to you on the Regents exam, on the back page of the Regents exam. This has many trig formulas. You do not need to have these memorized, but you have to be comfortable with them and you have to know which is the appropriate one to use at the right time. Let's take a look at this example. This example says, find the exact value of the cosine of 105. I don't know what the exact value of the cosine of 105 is, but I do know the exact value of the cosine and the sine for 45, and I know the exact value for the cosine and the sine of 60. And I'd like you to notice that 45 plus 60 is equal to 105, which means that if I want to find the exact value of the cosine of 105, I could find the cosine of 45 plus 60. Is there a trigonometric formula that helps me find the cosine of two angles being added together? Well, we can look on the reference sheet and we'll try to find a formula that involves the cosine and has two angles being added together. Right here on the reference sheet, I see the cosine of A plus B is equal to the cosine of A times the cosine of B minus the sine of A times the sine of B. This is probably blurry for you, but you can look on the reference sheet that you have with you. I'm going to write that formula down underneath here. So this says the cosine of A plus B is equal to the cosine of A times the cosine of B minus the sine of A times the sine of B. And let's do our substituting. So I guess it says cosine of A plus B, so there's 45 plus 60. So in this case, our A is a 45 and our B is a 60. Trigonometry is a big exercise in substituting, so let's do the substituting now. So this is the cosine of 45 times the cosine of 60 minus the sine of 45 times the sine of 60. This is very nice because we know the exact values for the cosine of 45, the cosine of 60, the sine of 45, and the sine of 60. If you don't have these exact values memorized, you need to make sure that you memorize them very soon. So the cosine of 45 is exactly the square root of 2 over 2. The cosine of 60 is 1/2 minus the sine of 45 is radical 2 over 2, and the sine of 60 is radical 3 over 2. We just substituted. The cosine of 45 is this. The cosine of 60 is this, minus. Sine of 45 is this, and the sine of 60 is this. These are values that you should have memorized from all the tables we've put together for these trig values of the special angles. Now that we have done the substituting, we have to do the simplifying. So radical 2 times 1 is radical 2. 2 times 2 is 4, minus. Radical 2 times radical 3 is radical 6. And 2 times 2 is 4. We have common denominators. These are not common radicands, so we cannot combine them, but we can write this out as one fraction now. So this is radical 2 minus radical 6 all over 4. This cannot be simplified any further, and so really this is our answer. The cosine of 105 degrees is exactly this. Here's what we mean by that being exact. we can take a look, and this is also a good way to check our answers. If we put in the cosine of 105, that tells us that that is negative 0.2588190451. That is an approximate answer. Let's check how that compares with the exact answer that we came up with here. I'm going to put in parentheses, radical 2 minus radical 6. And then I'm closing the parentheses around the entire numerator to make sure that the order of operations is done correctly, and we'll divide that whole numerator by 4, and that ends up giving us the same thing that we would have expected from the cosine of 105, and so this is a good check, and we have done this correctly.